Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Emmett.
And I'm Joe, standing for the night.
And we are the UFO Bros. There we go. And we're coming at you live, one from across the country, myself from the facility. And I gotta tell you, folks, it's raining as hard as hell. So if you hear, like, loud drops, that's what you're hearing, is this crazy storm that's coming through here. Tonight, Joe, my lovely brother Joe, Goober Joe, he had to go on a mission, a long mission through difficult terrain and unmovable obstacles, insurmountable barriers. He's on the freeway right now, but he'll be back soon. He's coming back with his children's. Apparently they make things called children. I've never heard of them. Thank God I was never one of them. No, I'm kidding. I love kids. I'm just kidding. But tonight, folks, I'm excited. We have got Stand-in Joe to help us cover this crazy topic. And I'm going to tell you, this is just the start to some more information that we're going to be putting out, trying to connect all of this 40s, 50s, 60s UFO, connect all those dots with the aliens and the crashes and the discs and the sightings, and I think that our special guest is on to something, but we're not going to reveal it all tonight. So that's going to be on the next podcast, or probecast, actually. We're changing the name, right? Stand-in Joe, it's a probecast.
It's a probecast. It's a probing.
Yeah, and some people could use a good probing. But moving on. For those of you out there who are supporters, thank you all so much for supporting us on Patreon. If you haven't yet, make sure you check out our website, www.ufobrostv.com. Check it out. We just put a ton of brand new UFO alien related items, all kinds of things, from shirts to pillows to jewelry to novelty items to menswear to hats to beanies. The selection is very substantial. So I did that for you guys, and the reason being is, and I know that you, Stand-in Joe, probably feel the same way. Sometimes you love UFOs, you love aliens, you love this topic, you love being part of this community, and sometimes you just want to go buy something cool, but instead it's kind of hard to find it. It can be hard to find, and then it's hard to find, and then the shipping is crazy. So what we did is we literally just handpicked through I can't even tell you, thousands of things to bring some things to our website we think you guys would like. So if you got a minute, UFO Bros TV, things as low as $5 on there, all ships free. And we do get a portion of that, which we put right back into this, guys. So this helps with our hosting, this helps with our subscription, and Stand-in Joe, the more we do, the more our expenses grow. So check it out, buy a little something, even a sticker, and show us some support. All right, that's enough for tonight's commercial about our own show and our own selves. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about Project Serpo. And I today took some time and really tried to dig into this amazing story. And I'm going to be honest, because I am not an expert on it. If you sit down and talk to me about Roswell, as most of you know, I can go on and on and on about Roswell. But tonight's special guest, I think, can do that with Project Serpo. So what I'm going to do is give you a brief summary and introduction, and then I'm going to kind of ask him some questions. And if anybody is in the chat room has some questions, like, oh, Wolfman Mike's in the chat tonight. Welcome,
nice.
Sir. Welcome. Alien on Board is in the chat room tonight.
What's up, Alien?
What's going on? And by the way, Alien on Board, if you have anything you want to contribute, please send it over chat. I know that you've been researching this as well. Here is the story in a nutshell. In the 60s, I believe. Is that correct? It's the 60s that this...
Yeah, well, obviously it ties into Roswell. So when Roswell happened in 47, and it was a few years after that. So, but they did wait a small period before they actually took the journey. So I think it was the late 50s, early 60s is when it actually took place.
Right, and that's the 10-year gap enigma story.
Yeah,
we'll cover that. But ultimately, like Stand-In Joe said, it really stems from Roswell, and then there's this large gap of time where we send our own people to a planet near a binary star system, and this planet is supposedly called Serpo, and I'm not entirely certain in detail. We're going to have our special guest comment on that, but it has something to do with an exchange of technology, a flying disc that had basically been gifted to us, which a lot of people refer to as the Kingman crash in Arizona. This was a Kingman landing, UFO saucer landing in Arizona, and this is where the story starts to get all tied up and weird. So let's try to start from the beginning. We have this landed spaceship, flying saucer, whatever you call it, out in the middle of the desert. We take it and we put it on a barge. Isn't that what we essentially did, Stand-In Joe?
They essentially gave it to us so we could, back engineer it as sort of a gift, like you said. It was just like, it was further on in the exchange program as a good token, because I guess the species that this exchange program had were they were good. They were benevolent. They were they were cool with humans.
Right, and are these the Zeta Reticuli aliens? Or
That's
these
correct, yes.
Also known as Ebens, isn't that correct?
Ebens, yep. That's the government named them Ebens.
Ebens.
EBEs,
Right, and just to kind of update anybody who's not sure, EBE is just an acronym for Extraterrestrial Biological Entity, as is Eben. It's just another way of kind of doing that. I think Eben is a more... I think that's a more official term that I've heard of. So we get this technology delivered to us. It is then transferred to a base not far from there, which we call Area 51. And that is where the start of the back engineering of craft had started, so-called.
That's it, yeah.
According to this story. Which makes me wonder, Stand-In Joe, was that the saucer that Bob Lazar was working on, do you think?
I was always thinking of that as well. But, that author, Len Castens, who, wrote the book Project Serpo based on, the story and the leak. Pretty much that this whole thing was leaked on the internet by an anonymous source in, 2005. And, Bill Ryan from... Project Camelot, he actually turned all those leaked emails that this anonymous source, leaked onto the internet through the whistleblower. The whistleblower was like a former executive of Defense Intelligence, so he was really high up. This is where all this leaked information kind of came from, but obviously he didn't put it on the internet. This anonymous source did. And Bill Ryan actually turned it into Serpo.org. So, and you checked that website out, right, Emmett? Yes,
I did.
Awesome. And in 2005, 2006, that went live. Bill Ryan put that up, and you could go on there. I remember back in 2008, I would go on there every now and then. He would constantly update it with the emails that were being leaked. And this is the source of the information. So whether you believe the story or not, this is pretty much where it's coming from. And Len Castens was he was just the author that wrote a book on it, and he has a wealth of information on it. But all the information that he has, he got from this anonymous leaker, so to speak.
Which is essentially kind of by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this, you definitely should check out that site. We're just summarizing it because we've only got about 45 minutes. So somewhere between receiving this technology, back engineering it, and the crashed Roswell disc with what was said to have, like we talked about before, a live being was taken into custody. And the story starts here.
One survived. Yep. Just
one
like you
survived.
Said. And one being survived, and that's where the project came from.
And that's where I'm going to turn it over to you, Stand-in Joe. I want you to go from the point where here we are with this EBIN just crashed here in 47, and we are, and then not too long after that, we have a landing in Kingman, Arizona.
Yep.
And all this stuff's at Area 51. Go ahead and take us on a journey to what the heck Serpo is, how this happened, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, the short version, exactly. One even survived in the Roswell crash, and over time we were able to communicate with it, and obviously that being was hidden somewhere that from the public. It wasn't obvious to anybody, just the government had him, and somehow they were able to communicate with his beings. Again, this is how the story goes. This is all the whistleblower testimony says, and there was contact. A few years later they were able to come back, and that's when we had put together a team, and we had thought that when they were coming back, that's when the exchange program took place, but actually they weren't quite ready yet, and we, weren't quite ready yet. So that's where those 10 years came in, when we had picked our 12. They had finally picked 12 humans to go on this exchange program, and that's where the whole, Close Encounters of the Third Kind movie comes in. There's a ton of information in that movie that if you want we can talk about as well. And they show, the 12 people going into the craft at the end of the movie. They show the 12 people in the middle. So many parts of that movie, there's references to Serpo, Project Serpo, and that specific movie right there that's well known.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so yeah, and essentially, the 10 years passed, and actually I think out of those 10 years, there was a few years where it was such top secret that our 12 guys, they put him in a prison, Leavenworth, for a little while. Not because they were going to do anything bad, but because they didn't want them to interact with anybody.
Wow.
Until they were ready to go, and they went up, and there was the exchange program, and they were able to go back. It took them I think what they said was 9 or 10 months to get back to the Zeta Reticuli star system and their planet. And one died on the way up there, so the story says.
That's right.
One of the humans died of.
I thought it was
of a heart aneurysm.
I thought it was two died and 2 stayed.
Well, one died on the way up, never even got there.
Okay.
Another one died. 1 or 2 died while they were on the planet.
Oh,
they were there for about 12 or 13 years.
Wow.
2 of them stayed, and then the remaining, 5 or 6, they went back home, and they probably died in the 80s or the early 90s if they lived a normal human life.
Wow.
There's actually a story that one of them, the captain, who they actually nicknamed him Mr. Hero. It's a funny story. He actually met the Pope, and there's pictures of him meeting the Pope somewhere, and there's a whole story behind that. The Pope, was in on it and knew he got to meet him, but again, I'm not exactly sure how true that is, but.
Well, so I just want to take a moment and just stop for a second. So we have 12 human beings,
yes,
that have been selected through some process to go to the home planet Serpo of the Zeta Reticuli star system. And let me ask you, what kind of people were involved? Were they picking a certain type of, somebody who's, a botanist or somebody that's a surgeon, or can you give us an idea of what types of?
I think they assembled sort of like a team. I know the leader of the captain. He was an an older, in his 50s or so, where he had like that experience of leading a squad, so to speak. But the other ones, I guess they were 30s, 40s, probably some military experience. I'm sure some of them were botanists, chemists, maybe teachers, again, it was such top secret that, the names of the people who went, we don't really know their exact profession, but I'm sure they've selected people, with those types of jobs and whatnot.
Yeah, because it seems as though that there wasn't, and I couldn't find necessarily like a really common thread of type of person, except I did know that there was some controversy whether women went or not, because I've heard that it was like 10 men and 2 women, or 1 woman, or no women. So there's a little bit of speculation on that. I don't know if you're able to.
Yeah, there is, and it does show 1 or 2 women in the Close Encounters movie. It shows a blonde lady and I think another woman. But yeah, that's definitely speculation as well. It could have been 12 men. It could have been 10 men and 2 women. Again, those exact details are probably, never officially, when I went through all of that, and that's like a gray area right there, exactly, Could have been 11 now, but supposedly the number was 12.
Yeah, and I think so. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't.
Actually, you know what else I just remembered now was, how in the Roswell crash, and some people say that, when the one saucer that actually crashed, but was still assembled, it didn't disintegrate, that there was human body parts on the craft.
I don't really jive with that whole story.
Well, but supposedly that's what people say. That
I know.
Body parts on the car, and that ties into the story, because this species of Ebens, they were really into science and the body and DNA and geology and plant life and just anything that revolved around life. And they actually, when the one human who actually died on his way up to Serpo, when the other 11 found out that he had died and there was nothing they could do, they asked for the body, and the Ebens already had chopped him up.
Oh my God.
And they chopped him up, and there was a fight on the way up, because the humans were pissed, because that's not what we do. They just basically, after they knew they couldn't save him, he died. They didn't want him to die, but he did. And they chopped him up, and the humans were pissed off, but they tried to explain, no, this is what we do. This is our science. We study it. We this and that. And so supposedly all those body parts. They don't eat humans, they don't eat flesh, they're not like that, but they had that as an exchange, that was given to them for study.
I see.
And so that's where that whole story comes in.
So that's what the exchange started with.
They were played off as their flesh-eating, aliens.
Okay.
And the truth is, if this is the truth, that wasn't the case at all. It's that they were given those body parts for studying and for research, for their own research. They go around the galaxy collecting species and things like that. They're not harmful. It's just what they do. They're very smart, and that's where that whole story. So they crashed the ship, and all those body parts weren't food. It was for studying and for research. So that's what that ties into.
Now, let me ask you, so just to clarify here, now we're, tying into Roswell,
yep.
Which kind of really builds on this story, it's such a huge story, and then we add this on top of it, it's like, whoa. So let's go back to our 12 earthly people. What happens when they get on the ship? How long does it take them to get to Serpo? And do you know of any, telling or story of what they experienced getting on board with beings from another planet and going to their planet if this indeed happens? So, by all means, explain that a little.
Yeah, what the emails say, the leaked emails, and what Bill Ryan has, what he posted on Serpo.org over the years, and again, this was updated almost daily for years. So there's so much information that you can sift through. It was a mothership because the little ships, that crashed in Roswell obviously aren't, going to fly through the galaxy. They're not big to they're not meant for warp speed, and we're talking 40 light years away. This is a long million light years. It's very far. So they obviously had a mothership in the area. So the mothership is huge. I mean, one of the humans says that he walked into a room that had 100-foot ceiling. Wow. And this was inside the spaceship, so the spaceship was enormous. The humans were able to take human jeeps and weapons. They were really accommodating. They let them take almost anything that they wanted. Food, so they had enough room for them. They owned their own little quarters on the ship, and I guess because the ship was traveling in a way where we weren't used to it, it made them sick if they left this area that they had for the humans, so they were able to have each their own little dwelling, and as long as they stayed in there, they were fine, and they pretty much stayed in there the whole time, and I guess it took them about 9 or 10 months. I mean, I don't know if it was they went straight or if they took a stop at another planet on the way. I have no idea. That doesn't say, but it took them about 9 months to get from Earth to their star system, Zeta Reticuli.
Right. So let's say now, here we are. We've got our 12 citizens. What do they find on Serpo? What is the vegetation like? What is the landscape? Are there buildings?
It was a binary star system, so their planet, you could see 2 suns. So it was really hot for them. And that was one thing they didn't like, was the heat. But as far as the atmosphere and everything, there was oxygen. They were able to breathe. They were able to, other than the heat, which is like being in a desert, was the description. Eventually, the longer they were there, they were able to go onto a different part of the planet that wasn't as warm, and they had a lot of dwellings that went down inside the Earth, where it's obviously naturally cooler, so they were able to go in there. But it was a planet that was completely open to all sorts of beings. So the humans said while they were there, it wasn't like a big deal. Humans didn't care that they were there because there was other, extraterrestrial life coming and going all day long,
Right, it's like another day for them.
Who even knows if they were the first humans ever there? We have no idea. They could have been, a human colony already there and nearby somewhere.
Now, so here we are on this planet. It's hot as hell at the equator.
Real hot.
Because I heard that they landed somewhere on the equator of the planet.
Yeah, it was like really, really hot. They landed in the hottest spot of the planet, and for them it was just like 140 degrees
there you go,
outside.
Something like that. Some crazy temperature. And now, I remember, I'm just going to kind of fast forward, because I want to get to the culture. And
that's good too.
I believe
I have a lot to talk about with the culture is like.
And I'm just gonna say, I heard that Ebens love dancing, and they love vocalization.
Their planet actually, there was only again, this is completely according to the whistleblower testimony and the anonymous emails that were leaked, is that there was only about 600,000 beings that resided, that were native to that planet. Which, if you figure with how many people are in this world, it's a stupid amount compared to that. So they had a lot under control, and from what I understand, it was a police state. Did you read about that, where they had to wear bracelets? They were told when to eat. They were told when to sleep. But it wasn't like we thought. We would relate to that as like being in prison. Right. Where they were perfectly happy because they didn't really work. They didn't have to worry about food. All the food was given to essentially everything that they needed was just given to them, So they were completely fine when being told when to eat and whatnot because they were always happy.
And that's good. I would like to go to a planet where all my things are taken care of and I'm happy all the time. Now, they're there. They're witnessing this culture. The Ebens dancing. They like chant music. They were into like the chanting type of music, and which apparently was like high vocalization. Spiritual. Yeah, high vocalizations that sounded very almost computer-ish, I guess.
Exactly. It was very pitched. high pitched, and they were
which sounds terrifying to
me.
me.
They were happy beings.
That sounds terrifying.
They were happy.
But now they're on the planet 10 plus years. Now, can you walk us through who, the people that decided to stay? Do we know why they decided to stay on Serpo? Can you, give us any?
I don't know. I guess there's two that decided to stay. Maybe that was one of the, guys and the girls, and they were in love, and they just thought that they would stay there. That was one of the assumptions. But I have no idea. I'm not sure what.
That would be interesting. I mean, what was it? I wonder, was it a utopia? Was it, did it have lots of plant life, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the food. It was a little while for them to digest the food, but after a while, our bodies took to it fine. It seemed like a fine place, but the thing I got from it was just how accommodating and friendly they were, and they were all happy, even though they were all, very much controlled by something. Our people never met anyone of significance in their society. Like, we didn't meet any, because it wasn't that big of a deal for
them, another
race to go there. Like for us, it'd be different if, because that's never publicly happened here, but
right.
You know what I mean? But there, like I said, I mean, they go there, they think they're going to get the royal treatment, the president's going to come out, and it didn't happen like that at all. It was like, they were like kept secluded. I mean, again, it was, people were very, hospitable, but it was not a big deal at all for them to show up, 11 of them, because one of them died, because there was aliens, ET, other life coming and going on a daily basis on that planet. So it was nothing for them.
So Stand-In Joe, I'm going to go to the chat room here because Mr. Alien on Board has a good question.
Awesome.
For both of us. And he says, would you guys stay if you went?
Absolutely.
I would go if Stand-In Joe was there, because we could talk the whole time. We'd probably drive the planet crazy, all 600,000 of them. That'd be fun. I would totally go. I would stay. Why? You have one life. I mean, we know what's here. I would love to. I don't know. Wait. Coming back would be. And let's talk about that, because I wonder what kind of. What kind of. That's my Childress impression. You can have a round of applause. Thank you. Some kind of. Let me ask you. I'm David Childress. Kind. Sorry. Okay, and I'm done. But what was I talking about? See,
if you were going to stay, Alien on Board asked if you were going to stay, and you said that the ride home would be bumpy.
I got to tell you, Joe, you are right on today. You are just spot on helping me out. I love it. So, stay, yes. But what about the people that came back? And did they experience any kind of reintegration issues? Any emotional distress? Do you know anything about the survivors, the people that returned?
The only thing that's out there is the one person I said where his nickname was Mr. Hero or something like that. I think it was actually Mr. Hero, and he might have been the captain. He might have been the leader, and he in 1978 got to meet with the Pope, whoever the Pope was in 78, and so the Pope knew. I mean, probably there. I'm sure he's got a lot of inside knowledge that we'll never know, and and that's it. But I'm sure everyone else, then they obviously weren't going to be able to write a book on it. I mean, that's not something that was going to happen. As you know, they keep that under wraps.
I did recall a story of a woman who wrote a book of a very, very similar experience. It's completely separate from Project Serpo, but in the details of the story about the ship, how long it took to get there, what the culture was like, and apparently she came back and wrote a book about it. I got to get her name.
I haven't heard about that. So yeah,
oh man, we gotta find that.
Because the only books that I know on it were the Serpo book, the main novels that they wrote.
Right, and like I said,
Len Castens, and there's another one that's been pretty popular.
Well, and like I said, this is separate from Serpo. It's similar to, so that would be interesting.
Oh, it's another exchange program, not Serpo.
It actually, I'm not entirely certain if it was just like your kind of standard quote-unquote abduction case.
Sure.
Or if it was another
you know what? I think, okay, there's actually, are you talking, I'm not sure, I could be wrong, but are you talking about, like, Benny and Barney Hill?
No.
Right, because, they obviously you heard of them in their encounter, and she said that they also were taken to the Zeta Reticuli star system.
Yes.
So I don't know if it was based on that, So,
maybe that's just where they've been taking us. But then again, that's alien abduction's a whole other topic. Like you and I were talking about that.
And again, I mean, these Ebens, they were not into the whole abduction scene. They're not the gray aliens that were known for the abductions and the probing. These beings were just really no different from us. They were just far more advanced from far away place, and they were really into the whole science of the universe, and they went from planet to planet, just collecting things that they deemed important to their science.
I will say, it makes you wonder why they only have 600,000 actual, inhabitants of that planet. Why? What was that? Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, imagine if Earth only had 600,000, humans, but we were set up like we are. I mean, we would probably get everything for free as well. Everything we would need. But when you have billions of people,
it makes me think
that's not possible.
It makes me think that there was probably genetic degradation over time, maybe reproductive issues.
Well, I just think that maybe, but I think that it was a controlled planet, but not controlled the way this planet is controlled, hidden with the hidden hand. That planet, I guess my question, I read where they could be married, but you can only have one child. I'm positive I read that in one of the emails that was one of the, the laws of their society is there's only one child per family.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. They can only have one offspring per family. They called it.
So, I guess what I'm getting at here is, if there's only 600,000, are you saying that is a number they strive to maintain? What I'm asking is, before you answer, if we're at 6 billion, and they're far more, or I think we're coming up on 8 billion people, and let's say they're millions of years advanced, but they have 650,000. I'm asking the question, was there some kind of plague or destruction to a planet or their species or their genetics or whatever? Why is there only 600,000 of these beings on a planet?
No, that's a good question, and the feeling that I get from reading all of the emails and the information on Project Serpo is that that's just how they want it. I didn't get a feeling that they were plagued. They don't seem sick or anything like that. Doesn't seem to be any genetic issues going on over time like you hear possibly with the gray races. I just think that that's the number that functions best with their society. They've established over time that that's the number that works for them. I'm sure it fluctuates over time, but they experience death supposedly just like us, and they and of course birth, and they have offspring. They're only one per family, so they can control their population. Yeah, I think that's all planned, and I think that just works for them.
And, just turning over to the chat room, because I think some of our chatters have, our followers here, they have some input as well. War. That's one I didn't think of, which, for obvious reasons.
Sure.
But according to Alien on Board, I'm not sure where the source came from, but he says that there was a 100-year war that wiped out a lot of them. And I don't recall, like I said, I haven't done that much research.
Yep, they were involved in a 100-year war. That's
there
correct.
We go. That's the corroboration.
I read that several times on the leaked information. They were involved in a 100-year war. I don't know. I don't remember it saying that that's the reason why they only have 600,000. Possibly, but
that's just the kind of things I think of.
In a long time war, like 100 years. It was a serious war.
Yes, and that's just the kind of thing that stops me in some of these stories as I'm kind of exploring them, going, wait, hold on a second. But in some ways, it doesn't subtract from the story. I think it actually adds more depth to the story. And
sure.
And I just, if I don't know, let me ask you this, and I'm going to turn this over to also the people in the chat room. If you could sit down with one of these, Earthling astronauts that, took this incredible journey to a planet, in a binary star system, if you could sit down with them and off the record and ask them, you get 2 questions. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you first, Stand-in Joe. What are the 2 questions you ask this person, but you only get 2?
2 questions off the top of my head. One, I probably would ask, did they see anything interesting probably on the way? I'd want to know what the the experience was like, if they got to look out a window, halfway there, or if they got to see anything fascinating, on the way to the star system. Probably 1. And probably 2, I would probably just, maybe want to know what the other planet, just the senses, what it smells like, what the ground feels like. Does it feel differently? Just basic stuff like that. What do the people smell or feel like? There are things like that, that are senses that are close, that we can all relate to.
You know what, and to be honest with you, I think I would probably ask similar questions in relation to senses. How does your body feel on this planet?
Yeah, how does our body feel?
Is there more weight to your body? Is there less weight? Is there, what's the,
Sure.
Just giving the best possible.
Everything. The sounds, what is it? Does it sound different? Does the wind sound different? Does it smell different? Just, does the water feel different, taste different? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Or, is there water water is water, H2O is H2O, but,
Yeah.
Our water is H2O, but if you get
But this might have more minerals. There
exactly.
Could be more minerals. I mean, I'm sure we have chemtrails, so our water probably is shit compared to their water.
I was just exactly going to say that. I think that I would ask that. I would say, what does water taste like? What does the air smell like? What do the beings feel like? What do the beings smell like? Those are the kinds of weird I guess those are kind of weird creeper questions to ask, like, did you get to smell their skin? Did you get to smell that? But I think that's the only thing that I could get a grasp of what it would really be like. I don't really care about, like, was there a cool car, or was there a things floating in the sky?
Yeah, the technology would be down the line, but they had all anti-gravity stuff again. They were they were very advanced. You know what I kind of got out of it was, and I'm not even really a big, sci-fi person. And I watch the Star Wars movies and stuff. I don't really get into a lot of the sci-fi movies, but I kind of get like the New Hope movie with the Tatooine scene when Luke was younger, and the 2 sons, and they had a lot of crazy technology.
Right.
But the way it looked they looked very primitive, like the clothing and the huts, and it was desert-like. So it was like, in one sense, it was like primitive, but yet the technology was right there. You know what I mean? It was
that
kind
is
of like
one
two
thing,
worlds collide.
Absolutely. I love that whole, mix of old and new, and where
and I
this
think that's what I'm
technology on Star Wars seems to be just an extension of yourself, or the technology that they have is old and so old that you don't know any different. You don't even know that it's technology.
Yeah, so it's like,
there.
for them, I mean, they live like, you would look at them and you would think that they're, just not primitive like cavemen, but like they don't look very futuristic, but yet they'll whip out a craft that can go, 7,000 miles an hour, with no problem. So,
yep.
And they had all these crazy things that they used to ride around on, like helicopters with no wings and all sorts of stuff that, there's, no need for petroleum and gasoline and stuff like that on the planet.
That would be nice. A planet that doesn't need that. We're going to pause here for a moment, and we're going to turn it over to social media and just do some shout-outs because I got to give it up for Hysteria 51. Their podcast, they cover similar sorts of things, but in their own awesome way, and they're at Hysteria 51 Pod. They gave us a retweet about tonight's show, so thank you for that. Also, Christopher Wolford is very gives us lots of love on Twitter and also on Facebook. By the way, make sure you follow us on Facebook if you aren't. We need some Facebook love. Stephen K, thank you for following. And that's Auto Fortune, at Auto Fortune. And I'm going to go over to Instagram. Here we go. Instagram's always crazy. And I love it. We've got UFO Man 8014 giving us a lot of love and attention. We love it. Disclose TV, thank you. Ken Colt with 2 N's, thank you. ETs_exist, thank you. The_Stingwisher, you're the bomb. And let's see, we're going to do one more here. Faded One, she's a hoot. So on our social media, if you are not, make sure you check us out. We're on all things social media at UFOBROSTV, except for Twitter. Stand-in Joe, what's Twitter?
Twitter?
Yeah, it's
the UFOBros account. The UFO.
Yep.
No, UF0.
There you go.
UF0.
UF0 Bros TV. That's on Twitter, and we are on Snapchat, Instagram, like we said, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you are not. That's just a reminder. It's easy to watch and listen and forget to subscribe, so this is just a reminder. And by all means, check out the new website. We've got some really cool hand-curated and picked alien UFO related items, gifts, novelties, and we will be regularly updating that website. So, woo! Project Serpo. You know what? 45 minutes just isn't enough to discuss it in full detail. But I think, for the most part, Stand-in Joe, we were able to give the listeners a good taste, a basic summary understanding, and, ask the questions I think most people would ask. What does it smell like? What's it like being there? All those, very human senses would be important. That would be the ultimate question. And
that would be important. That would be important questions, though.
Absolutely. So, thank you all so much. Too bad Joe couldn't be here tonight, but you know what? Stand-in Joe was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great.
And
thank you all.
Your knowledge is never ending, sir. I always appreciate you on the show. And I got to tell you, we are working on. I'm working with him. He's got some amazing information about Antarctica that I think we're going to be covering, and some mind-blowing, I think, revelations about Nazi Germany and their technologies. And we're going to cover those things. So make sure you subscribe, like, follow, all that good stuff. Thank you, everybody. I'm Emmett.
And I'm Stand-in Joe.
And we are the UFO Bros. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you guys next time.